Hi friends, welcome back to Lucid Reflections Astrology Sessions. My name is Julie of the Deep Earth, and today I felt inspired to talk about the narcissist-codependent dynamic in light of the Aries and Libra eclipse season. Special episode. So before I get into it, I just want to say that the word narcissist has been really overused, and so has codependent. And I'll define these through the video, but we're not all a little bit narcissistic. That's not a thing. And I also just wanted to say that narcissism, in my experience of being intimate with narcissistic people, with narcissistic tendencies, has been that it is on a spectrum. I think on one extreme is the narcissistic personality disorder, where someone totally lacks the ability to self-reflect, or they just don't have the willingness to, or the humility or vulnerability to look within themselves and say, why did I say that? Where am I coming from in this behavior? Or maybe I wasn't right in when I did that. You know, they don't have that kind of ability to look in their own mirror and look within. But then I think, like, on that spectrum, there is also a less intense version of narcissism, where someone who can be very self-aware and very self-reflective might have an impulse reaction of narcissistic behavior. So I just wanted to say that because there's a lot of talk out there that, like, a narcissist can't change. But I really think it's important to look at it on a spectrum, because some people with narcissistic tendencies can also be really working on themselves and be aware that they have the tendencies even. So I'm going to get more into that. Also, okay, so yeah, so Aries Libra. So Aries is fire sign. It's me. It's who I am. It's my boundaries. It's me standing up for myself. It's my sense of courage, dignity, and righteousness. This is what I believe in. This is how I move about life. And this is just me. Libra is we. It's, oh, I'd like to learn more about you. Like, oh, I'm curious, like, where's that coming from? Or what did you mean when you say that? Let's talk about it. Like, it seems like, you know, if there's Aries in its shadow, that could be like, I disagree with you. We're butting heads, you know, the ram. Butting heads. So, but the Aries Libra is like, oh, I disagree with you. And it's like, well, where are you coming from? Let's talk about it. Maybe we can see and negotiate. And, you know, Libra is the scales. It's weighing. It's the judge. It's open-minded to hear and understand where someone else is coming from. So you can see how this might be setting itself up for, in these extremes, Aries Libra and the archetypes, a narcissist-codependent dynamic. I also want to throw out there that, like, Leo is also, like, a classically narcissistic archetype. Yeah, also fire sign. So, okay, but in this example, we're using Aries Libra because they're polarities, and eclipses bring out shadows, right? That's what they are. They're the sun, our masculine, our expressive self, being eclipsed by the moon, our inner self, the shadowy self anyway. And then, like, the moon being eclipsed by the sun. And so they kind of take turns. March 25th is going to be the Libra full moon eclipse. And then I think it's April 9th. Is that what it is? April. Sometime in early April is that big solar eclipse moving through the US. And so it's like that. So it's like solar eclipse. Lunar eclipse, moon in Libra, solar eclipse, the sun, new moon in Aries, so Aries, Libra. Okay, so yeah, so I want to talk about the extremes and the shadows of these polarities. So, right, okay, so the Aries could be representing the narcissist. So if someone has excess Aries, what are the narcissistic qualities? Are aggression, someone who's fast, you know, the Aries energy is very fast, whose first response is offense, defense. Now, like, on a subtler level, it does seem like a lot of the times when someone reacts offensively, it's from a place of vulnerability, right? Fight, flight, or freeze. And underneath there is something that is wanting to be protected. And I'm also just wanting to talk about narcissism a little bit, and, like, what I've learned about the narcissistic mind and codependent mind. So yeah, so, like, what's on the deeper level with that aggressive, outward facing, you're the problem, like, knee-jerk reaction, attack, often is like a vulnerability on the inside. There's something going on inside of me that needs to be protected, or my sense of self needs to be protected. So these are all the Aries shadows. It's like, wait, you're saying, and it also the shadow of like taking something personally. Like, wait, what you're saying is different from me. And like, if something's different from me, then I feel threatened. And so like, you have to be wrong. You have to be stupid. Or like, oh, if something is different from me, then like you're like controlling me or something like that. So okay, so then on the Libra side, the codependent side, I want to understand, why did you just get angry? Where are you coming from? What does the world look like to you? There says, this is what the world looks like to me. This is my reality. This is what you're creating. Libra's like, okay, I understand, and I have compassion, and so I'm willing to be flexible in my sense of who I am and what I wanted to do today and where my boundaries lie. Like, that's not that important. Like, yeah, like, I just want to cooperate with you. This is like the Libra shadow. Like, I'll go along with your world. I see where you're coming from when you put it that way. Like, I can even see how I was wrong, and then the Aries is like, yeah, in the shadow of like the inflated sense of self. So there's the inflated sense of me, and then the Libra would be the deflated sense of me in the shadow. So okay, so also, like, for example, the Aries could say something to the Libra like if the Libra sets a boundary, a Libra does something a little bit, Aries sets a boundary, says, this is my container of who I am. No, I don't want to do what you're asking me to do. Libra says, no, I'm not available today. Like, let's schedule something for tomorrow. I'm not free today. So Libra being a little bit Aries, that's cool. Except that the narcissistic reaction to that would be like, you're being a tyrant. You're telling me, like, you're dictating the schedule, here. You're dictating the schedule. So that would be the Aries perspective, is saying, like, I'm having to compromise. I'm having to change something about me in order to accommodate the Libra. Like, the Libra's asking me to be a little bit flexible. Like, no, I'm the Aries here. So that person's being a tyrant. And so it's something interesting about the narcissistic mind is it like twists situations like that. It sees that when the other person is embodying their identity, their boundaries, something that makes them different from the narcissist, then it takes it personally and sees it as though the other person is being selfish, something like that. So again, for example, like, if the Libra, were to say like, I just need to be alone right now, something like that, I need to be alone, then the Aries shadow would say, like, you're being selfish because you're not doing what I want you to do, basically. There's the difference between selfish and self-centered. Selfish, if someone is saying someone else is selfish, they're probably the one being selfish. And this is a good Aries shadow to talk about also. This word selfish, this judgment of the word selfish. If someone else calls someone else selfish, it's likely because they want something from the other person, and the other person might be like resolving into themselves. And of course, like, within reason, maybe there's situations where like the judgment of selfish is valid. So I'm talking just about like one thing in particular. Like, if someone says, I want to like set a boundary in my own personal container, like, I want to be alone right now, and then someone else calls them selfish because they're not doing what they want them to do, then the person who wants something of the other person is probably the one who's being selfish. So the accusation of selfish can also be like a narcissistic behavior, someone calling someone else selfish because they're not. And so this is what I mean, is like with the narcissistic mind, it takes things personally and then gets confused, like sincerely confused, in a way that twists reality, so that it looks like the other person is the problem. The other person is wronging them. The other person is harming them in some way. And so now if the Libra shadow doesn't have good boundaries, doesn't have a super strong sense of who it is, and it's with someone who has a super strong sense of who they are, so strong that they take it personally when the Libra does something that has nothing to do with them, and then says, you're doing something wrong, Libra, then the Libra's like, oh shit, I'm sorry, like, let me accommodate you, let me consider you even more, like, my boundaries aren't really that important. And then the Libra shadow would be like the people pleasing, the like, yeah, like I just want harmony between us. I don't want, like, when I don't have to fight about this. Like, I understand you, even like I can mentally stretch my mind open enough to see beyond my own boundaries, unlike the narcissistic mind, which does not stretch itself open enough to see into the Libra mind. It just feels its own fire flaring up and sparks it at someone else. It's Aries. And then the Libra is like feeling the solar flares and is like considering. So, okay, you know, so these are the imbalances. So the thing with polarities, right, on the zodiac is they're there to balance each other out. We have opposites. So a little bit of Libra in the Aries would help the Aries to consider the other. And that would actually really help the narcissistic knee-jerk reaction to take stuff personally. If it is able to see where the other person's coming from, then it realizes, oh, whoops, like I was getting wrapped up in my own desires not being met and my own problems. But I forgot that this other person is a whole other person with their own problems and their whole own world and their whole own reality. And I'm putting too high expectations onto them or demands onto them, or I'm too entitled to this person. And that actually helps me like let my animosity towards them go. It helps me feel better about the whole thing, you know, because it might be a narcissistic behavioral tendency that like I want to keep hanging out right now, why do you have to leave? You know, it's like a little child, you know, it's like mommy, why do you have to go to work? You know, it's just like I don't like you're not doing what I want you to do, like you're not considering me. And I'm like, well, you know, the Libra says, I'm like, I have to go to work, you know, I have stuff I need to take care of today, you know. And then it's like, oh, I forgot that you exist. This is like the Libra Aries dialogue. So first imagine, okay, Aries being like, hey, like I want to keep hanging out, you're always leaving. And then the Libra is like compassionate and considering, and see where the Aries is coming from, is like, I'm sorry, like I wish I could hang out with you more, like I like don't take it the wrong way or whatever. And it's like, you're not considering my needs. And it's like it's okay, you know. And then finally the Libra offers the Aries back some Aries and it's like, you know, I exist too, like I have to do things today. And then the Aries, if it has the self-reflexivity, has a little Libra in it, can see where the Libra's coming from and can say, oh, okay, I was being selfish, I forgot that you exist. Frankly, that would be a great apology from the narcissist, like, sorry, I forgot that you existed for a minute, and now that I remember that you exist, I guess it's not a problem if you have to go do something other than what I want for you to do right now. Okay, so there's the dash of Libra, and the Aries is saying like, oh, I can stretch my mind open a little bit to see where you're coming from and to see that you exist and you're different from me, and that's okay. And then the Libra can have a little Aries and say, this is my self-definition, this is who I am, regardless of how you're going to react to it. I'm going to be me, I'm going to do me, and yeah. So there you have it. And hopefully with this awareness, we can shed light to what can otherwise be a very unconscious dynamic. Shed light on the eclipse path. I'll also just put in a good word for trauma bonding. This is very conditional, and I wouldn't make this as a general statement about all trauma bonds. But with the help of a friend of mine, recently, I see that there's sometimes in trauma bonds, if there is consciousness also, they can bring an opportunity for awareness and growth and light to the shadow. A trauma bond is when one person's trauma triggers directly connect with the other person's like behavioral tendencies and their trauma triggers connect with their behavioral tendencies. Like there's a perfect, like, wow, you remind me of my mom, you remind me of my dad, let's get together, you know? It's very Freudian in that way, and it's like a kind of unconscious desire to work through stuff. And when it's conscious enough, it can be a good practice of awareness. It can bring stuff up, it can repeat patterns and feel like, wow, this feels like a conversation that I had with my parent, you know? And that re-going into it can bring up an opportunity to repattern. So blessings on your Libra Aries eclipse season. May it bring in wonderful new relationships for you and a deeper connection with your sense of self. Till next time.